Woohoo, we're live. Mariela, what's going on? How you doing?
Hey, all good. How about you, Nick?
Awesome. Super excited to see what is new with IoTeX. But let's start off. Sometimes I forget to do this with telling people what IoTeX is, because it's probably the most common question I get in the world is like, what do those guys do?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't know it. Like they've heard of us, but they don't actually know what we do. So
Yeah.
basically, iTech started a couple years ago, 2017. Our
Yep.
founders come from big Web2 companies like Oracle, Uber, and all these big data companies. And they realized that there's no trusted data coming directly from devices. And so they started developing the technology to do this. So what IoTeX, I'm going to shorten it up because I don't want to take over the whole conversation. I could talk
Yeah.
forever about this, but what we're trying to do is connect directly devices to the Web3. So you can get the data directly from the devices. So it's trusted, transparent, but at the same time, keeping your privacy so you don't have to share everything that's going on.
Yeah. Yep. And I think of it, it's like the kind of rails that a bunch of projects can run on is maybe one way that I think of it. Because you
Exactly.
talk to,
Yeah, we're the infra layer. So we're
yeah.
not actually creating the projects ourselves. We're creating the technology so that any project can jump on board and utilize it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's usually what confuses people is they're like, oh, what do you mine? And it's like, no, we help other people figure out how to do their stuff.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
super cool. Let's see. The latest news that I'm seeing is that reasonably recent is the IIP 15. So one of the improvement protocols or probably proposals
Yeah.
is that you guys are going to start sharing a portion of transaction gas fees with developers. Can you walk me through kind of what you're thinking there and what's exciting about that?
Exactly. So the voting is open right now, so you can go ahead and vote. I think it's going to be open until late next week, so people
Okay.
still have a chance to go in and vote.
Yep.
So basically, yeah, what we're trying to do is share the revenue with developers, so that actually we can. We want to decentralize as much as possible IoTeX. Obviously, right now we're a little bit centralized. Our team is a little bit centralized, but just like any other blockchain project, we wish for it to be decentralized at some point. So that's what we're trying to do: redistribute the rewards so that our community and the people who are actually building it get a little more peace. So that's the voting that we're currently putting on. And we would love for people to come in and chime in if they agree that this is a good point. Yeah, then just go ahead and get your vote so that we can get the technology started and kind of change it on the back end so this becomes a reality pretty much.
Yeah, and IoTeX has been pretty good about trying to involve and make sure that all parties are winners in their ecosystem. That everybody gets something, everybody gives something, of course, but that it's a pretty fair trade. If you're participating with IoTeX, you're getting and giving something of value, and it seems like that's kind of one of the driving values of the company.
Correct. Yeah. I to be honest, I used to work as head of development at a big exchange. So I had to see 7 to 10 projects per week. I had to evaluate them.
Yeah,
And I eventually came to IoTeX because I really love this part. I think IoTeX not only has a potential to grow and it's bringing real use cases to the world, but that other part of the culture behind the foundation and how they handle things where everybody gets participation, whether you're a project, whether you're a user, whether you're part of the team, everybody gets a say. And I love that about IoTeX.
yeah. You guys have got to like, I don't know how many Telegram channels I'm on that are like IoTeX channels, but there's always people talking and saying like, "Oh, we're doing this. Try this out. Check this other thing out. Here's this other project." So there's a lot of communication within the company about all of the projects that are going on. So kind of cool to see.
Yeah, we try to be very open, and also the team itself. Like I'm very impressed. Normally, the co-founders of various projects they'll be unresponsive, but out of
Yeah.
the fact that our co-founders, everybody in the team, if you write to them, they'll respond to you. So yeah, we're pretty open and trying to have that personalized communication as much as we can. Obviously, sometimes we get overwhelmed, but yeah, we try to keep a very open line of communication with everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw you guys just launched a thing with Will over at EnviroBlock, the video with him kind of walking through what he'd done with the Pebble with EnviroBlock, which is cool because I talked to Will the other day as well. It's like, oh, it's nice to have a little bit more light shined onto that project. What are some other projects that you're super psyched on or initiatives that IoTeX is doing that you're excited about?
So at this point, I can't really reveal a lot. I can tell you that we are working with a lot of projects right now for some exciting kind of new things. Stay tuned for the next upcoming weeks. We'll be
Ooh,
kind of disclosing everything that we're doing, but I will say that we're focusing a lot on DePIN. If people haven't heard about DePIN, now's the time to get started, get to know it. It's how the internet kind of came and revolutionized everything about the infrastructure of our communities. Same will happen with DeepIn. And so that's where we're focusing. Our narrative is there. Our projects that are building with us, they're mostly correlated with this. So yeah, we would have a lot of exciting news. Unfortunately, I cannot share anything at this moment, but yes, they definitely stay tuned for the next few weeks. A lot of exciting news coming in.
Yeah, yeah, there's some cool stuff coming down the pipe. Let's talk a little bit about one of the things I'm seeing in DePIN is that you guys, I think it had been called MachineFi within IoTeX, and of course, Mike over at Lattice called it TIPIN, famously kind of coined that phrase. But there's a bunch of different names. EdgeFi was borderless's thing, and then everyone has kind of settled on the DePIN side. One thing Max and I are seeing, Max Gold, consulting partner at Goldhawks, is there's an interesting split between what we're thinking of, and we're still kind of wrapping our heads around it, pure DePIN projects where there is like a hardware thing that is special to that project, and projects where they're saying, hey, it's silly not to use the supercomputer in your pocket. I just got off a call with one of the guys over at Nadex, and they're like, yeah, you're a fool not to use this thing. So how are you guys looking at that split? And do you make that split yourself, or you're like, no, they're all pretty much the same to us?
I think having the hardware directly made, it helps depending on the project. It's
Yeah.
really the relevancy of the project. As far as adoption, obviously, it's going to be user if you just use your phone or you just use the already made hardware available. And what we're seeing with a lot of projects is that they'll start with their own hardware, but then they'll create firmware that you can use with any commercial purchase, which would be, I think that's the future, right? That anybody can have any type of hardware that they prefer, that they feel comfortable with, and then just kind of integrate it to whatever the project is doing, to whatever our infrastructure is doing. And that's what we're trying to get to. So I think to start with, having our own hardware is good. Like, for example, us for the Pebble tracker, it was our
Yeah.
POC. We
Yep.
want to make sure that it works, right? And we
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
make sure that it's specialized and everything. But then later on, the ultimate goal is to have it work with any piece of hardware. So yeah, if you already have your phone, why not do it? The problem here is obviously privacy concerns, security concerns, etc. So this is why it takes longer. And I wouldn't advise people to get desperate about, oh, I want to have it in my phone right now, or I want to have it in my computer right now, because there's a reason why it takes longer. And this type of devices is because we're trying to protect your data, we're trying to protect your privacy and hacks, etc. So that's the ultimate goal, to use any type of device that you're already using. But to start with, we want to make sure that we protect that part. So that's why people generally tend to start with their own hardware, which I don't
Yep.
think it's bad. It's a good POC. It gets you to
Yeah.
test. And once you're kind of fully immersed in that, then you move on to the day-to-day use cases, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. So if going forward you got a bunch of cool stuff to unveil, but we can't talk about it right here. Let's look backward a little bit. You guys have had a couple events. I think I've been to most of them, and either myself or Max have been to most of them. The Real World Denver I was in. I think you went to Real World Austin. There was one other one that maybe the one in Vegas that we went to. You guys always show up with a pretty strong crew. Is what are some of the projects over the past, let's say 6 months or a year, that you've looked at and you're like, oh, these are super cool to bring on? Like, what is stuff that we can talk about?
Yeah, of course. Demo, we already announced that. So we are working very cool with Demo. If people haven't heard about Demo, they're actually gathering data from your car. They
Yep.
have an app, and they have an OVM device, depending on if you have a smart car ready, or if not, you can just connect your project. So we're developing a little bit further with them. We already have a partnership announced. We will announce kind of the details coming up soon. But yeah, we're really interested in having that part kind of unveil and do it. Obviously, EnviroBlock, they're gathering the house information to get some data precisely from people. We do have our grants program also with a lot of projects that are building with us with IoTeX. EnviroBlock was part of our grants project. And yeah, we're also right now starting talks a little bit further to kind of create this whole ecosystem. So we're not focusing just on the projects that are building, we're focusing on creating a set of tools that will help
Mm.
any developer build. So we're actually in talks with various very popular tools that we want to generate the whole package, so that
Yeah.
if you want to create a project that's related to IoT, to devices, to hardware, you can come into IoTeX and pretty much have it simply, right? Our idea is to make developers' lives easier, projects' lives easier. We want to focus on the infrastructure, the technology. So you pretty much just plug in and play. And we're not only focusing on Web3, we're actually starting to have talks with Web2 people that want to kind of integrate, the day-to-day devices and hardware into like the Web3. So I think this is where we're seeing a lot of adoption. And it's where Web3 is coming, right? Everybody needs to revolutionize a little bit. We even have projects that are already Web3, but they want to do it in a sense where the users don't even know they're using Web3. And
Yeah.
I think this is the best case scenario, right? You want to do it where people don't even know they're using crypto, they're using blockchain, they're using our technology. It's just normal for them. And that's our ultimate goal, to make it seamlessly for anybody to be able to use it, to integrate, or to build on it.
Yeah, totally. I've seen a couple projects in IoTeX that seem like they're doing the same kinds of things. I think Driver X is one of the really cool ones. They've got some pretty fancy stuff they're doing that it's like demo. And then, so I don't think SoarChain is on IoTeX, but similar kind of things. How do you guys think about projects in parallel? And I don't think they're quite in competition yet because the pie is so dang big. But how do you guys think about supporting projects doing very similar things?
We definitely support it. I think it's part of the ecosystem. Blockchain is all about working together, decentralization, everybody having an opportunity. And like you mentioned, I think every project has their own niche focus. So yeah, they're all focusing on cars, but one of them might be focusing on insurance for your car. The other one might be focusing a little bit more on getting data for maximizing the efficiency of your car,
Yep.
etc. We are seeing a lot of ESG projects too, like energy, solar power, moving towards that too. We're seeing a lot of projects in that too, but each one of them is focusing on different. We have one that's focusing on residential, for example, data for individual use, where there's others where they're focusing on energy parks, where they want to make energy parks available for anybody to use, and
Yep.
so on. So I think, this is a very old school mentality of like competition, and we're competition. I don't think that this works on Web3. I think we can all
Right.
complement each other. We're actually even working with layer ones ourselves. We're a layer one, right?
Yep.
We're
Yep.
actually also collaborating with other layer ones, because at the end of the day, what you want to do is come together to build something cool, and whatever you don't have, your competition probably has it. So why not work together to create something cool and big, right?
Yeah. Love it. Now you're sitting in IoTeX, and I think of IoTeX as a pretty giant network in this DePIN space, and you're seeing a lot of projects. Maybe we don't do specifics on projects, but can you walk me through kind of strategically what you're seeing in the next 6 months to a year, as far as what are you excited about and where do you think this market goes? Are there any big trends that you're seeing that maybe a casual user might miss?
Yeah, I think definitely data is the focus. Every project wants to gather data that's being kind of pushed away or not necessarily taken advantage of at this moment with the current technology. So every project wants to expand on the use cases of the data.
Yeah.
Um, the way I see it and I explain it to people is, every day you're sharing your data with Facebook, with computer, with Apple, with everybody. You're not getting anything out of that, right?
Right.
Why shouldn't you? So that's what we're trying to do. That's the trend that I'm trying, that see projects trying to maximize that data that you're already sharing, but you get a piece of it, you get a reward for it, and also put in a different use case. And if people, small projects, or any person can use that data, and then kind of push it forward. You're even seeing, for example, helping, people always focus on the efficiency, on infrastructure and stuff like that. But one part that I love, because I come from a third world country, is the economic impact on small communities and lack of opportunities. And you're seeing actually all this data sharing and dipping, bringing opportunities and infrastructure where normally people wouldn't get access to. And that's also very exciting. So you see a whole refi communities building their own dipping communities so that they can maximize access to resources and at the same time get rewarded for it. So it's very exciting. It's the opportunities seriously are endless. You just have to be creative enough to do that. But yeah, I think that the trend is definitely mass usage too, which is great, because before I think there was a focus on B2B, which ultimately doesn't really work if you have to convince companies, and companies have been doing it in a certain way for a while. But if you grab the people and have the people use it, then companies kind of follow along, right? Because they're following the trend. So I think that's the trends that we're seeing, and people should get excited about this. And as people start to get involved more and more, because they're seeing a use case, right? It's not just an NFT. Now your NFT actually means something. It's getting you rewards, and it's actually a representation of a physical item. So that's the kind of things that I'm seeing that I think we should all be excited about.
Yeah, I think that's lining up with what I'm seeing. I think Max and I are seeing stuff. Really, we're seeing some movement down in South America where it's like here in the US, not as big of a deal to have a miner making whatever, a couple bucks a month, but down there, that's a big deal. Or in
Exactly.
some parts down there. Yeah. So
And it's not only the bucks, right? It's access. We're seeing decentralized infrastructure for internet, for example. So communities that don't have any
yeah.
cable work or whatever, they get
Yep.
access to internet because of this. So quite exciting for sure.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of rad stuff going on. We'll have to have you back on when you guys release your big news. I'm excited to share that with the world. Excited to hear what's going on. I know if you guys are doing it, it's probably big and pretty radical. So, yeah,
Definitely.
Mariela, thanks a ton for coming on the show. We will see you next time.
Thank you guys for having us, and stay pending for big news coming up.